The sun had barely touched the rusty rooftops of Marine Base in Port Harcourt when Mama Ada lifted the torn curtain of her one-room apartment. The air was heavy, with the smell of wet sand, smoke, and misery. Inside that single room, life seemed trapped, just as her daughter Ada had been for all of her 22 years. Ada sat on the low mat near the wall, her fragile legs folded like forgotten sticks. Her eyes, wide and innocent, followed her mother's every move. She could barely speak. Her tongue stammered like a bird with broken wings. A bowl of water sat near her, half full, where she washed her face and sometimes herself. She could not walk. She could not go outside. The world existed for her through the cracked wall and the voice of her mother. Mama Ada, a widow, had known no rest since her husband died 7 years earlier. She sold sachet water on the streets, earning barely 1,000 naira a day. Sometimes she skipped meals so that Ada could eat a handful of rice with palm oil. Sometimes they both went to bed hungry, whispering prayers into the darkness. But Ada never complained. She would just smile faintly when her mother sang those old river's lullabies, songs that carried the smell of river mud and moonlight. It was on one such day that Ada's quiet world shattered. The first time the man came, she thought it was her mother returning early. She had heard the latch turn gently, and footsteps entered the dim room. But when she looked up, her small joy froze. A tall, dark figure stood at the door. He smelled of alcohol and sweat. "Don't make a sound," he hissed. Ada's lips trembled. Her hands tried to move, but they were weak. Before she could understand what was happening, he rushed to her and whispered words she could not repeat. Then, like a monster from a nightmare, he did the unthinkable. When he was done, he wiped his hands on her wrapper and warned her never to tell anyone. If not, he would return and kill her, and then slipped away into the sunlight, leaving behind silence and horror. That night, when Mama Ada returned, she found her daughter shaking, her eyes wide and distant. "Ada, what is it?" she asked, holding her close. But Ada only cried quietly, pressing her face into her mother's wrapper. The second time he came, it was worse. The same smell, the same shadow, the same whispered threat. Only this time she tried to scream, but he slapped her hard across the face. Her small body shook, and then silence again. Days turned into weeks. Ada's smile disappeared. She began to sleep longer, to eat less. Her mother noticed, but thought it was the heat, or maybe malaria. Never did she imagine that her daughter, her crippled, innocent child, had suffered something darker than fever. 3 weeks later, Ada fell sick. Her body burned with fever. Her mother rushed her to the local health center, the same one where she once gave birth to her. The nurse, after some questions, examined Ada and then looked at Mama Ada with sorrowful eyes. "Madam," she said quietly, "your daughter is not just sick. She is pregnant." The words hit Mama Ada like lightning. For a moment, she thought she had heard wrong. "Pregnant?" she whispered. "How? My daughter cannot even walk." The nurse sighed deeply. "Madam, someone has touched her. Someone has forced her." The world seemed to stop. The tiny room swirled. Tears filled Mama Ada's eyes as she held her head, screaming, "God, what kind of wickedness is this?" When they returned home, Mama Ada sat beside Ada and begged her, "My child, please, tell me what happened. Who did this to you?" Ada trembled. Then slowly, words began to break from her lips, like stones. "Mama, he came. When you go sell water, he get wound for face. He do bad thing. He say he go kill me if I talk." Her mother covered her mouth and wept bitterly. The neighbors gathered. their faces dark with pity and anger. But no one had seen the man. No one had heard a sound. The story spread through the streets of Marine Base. Some shook their heads, others whispered cruel things. Maybe she wanted it, one woman said foolishly, but those who knew Ada, who had seen her crawling to reach her mother's pot of rice, knew better. Mama Ada went to the police station, clutching a torn piece of paper with her daughter's story written by a kind neighbor. But at the counter, the officer laughed dryly. "Madam, where is your evidence? Who is the man?" "I don't know," she cried, "but please help me find him." The officer shook his head. "If she cannot describe him, how can we catch him?" Defeated, Mama Ada walked home under the heavy rain. That night she held her daughter close and whispered, "God will fight for us. He will not let this evil go unpunished." Weeks passed. The baby grew in Ada's belly. She often cried in her sleep. Her mother, though broken, became her shield. Every day she prayed at dawn, her voice trembling. "Lord, if justice sleeps among men, let it rise among spirits." Then, one hot afternoon, as Mama Ada sold her sachet water near the waterfront, she heard a familiar voice behind her. It was a man buying cigarettes. His laugh, rough and sharp, sent chills through her body. It was a sound she had heard before. He turned, and in that instant, her heart froze. The scar on his left cheek, the same dark eyes, the same scent of gin. The sachet water fell from her hands. "You," she whispered. The man looked startled, then walked away quickly. Mama Ada's legs trembled, but her anger rose higher than her fear. She followed him from a distance until he entered a small wooden house behind the mechanic workshop. She ran to the nearest police outpost. This time, her voice was fire. "He is the one," she shouted. "The man who ruined my daughter." The officers followed her, and after a tense struggle, the man was dragged out. He tried to deny it, but Ada's frightened eyes recognized him instantly when they brought him to their room. She screamed and began to shake uncontrollably. The truth was undeniable. He confessed he had entered the house twice, thinking no one would ever find out. When the news spread, the community gathered before the police station. Mothers wept. Fathers clenched their fists. The women sang songs of sorrow and anger. When the weak cry, heaven must hear. When the innocent bleed, the earth must speak. The man was taken away, but the damage was done. Ada carried the pregnancy to term, giving birth to a baby girl. When the child was placed in her arms, Ada looked at her for a long time, then smiled for the first time in months. "This one," she whispered softly, "will walk. She will talk. She will live." Mama Ada wept quietly beside her, kissing her forehead. Life did not suddenly become easy. They still lived in the same one-room house, still poor, still forgotten by the city. But something had changed. In that room where evil once walked in darkness, light now burned. A fragile, stubborn light, born of a mother's love and a daughter's strength. And whenever the neighbors passed by and heard Ada humming to her baby, they said, "She may be broken, but her spirit sings." Because in that little room in Port Harcourt, where tears once spoke louder than words, the cry within Ada had finally been heard. If this story touched you, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to this channel for more powerful, emotional African stories. We promise more tales of love, loss, courage, and truth. Stories that will make you laugh, cry, and reflect. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep loving.